darkness, emptiness, a sinister force lurking in the shadows of the galaxy. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And at the heart of this eternal conflict lies the sinister, seductive power of chaos. Hello, the best, and welcome to a chilling tale of betrayal, devastation, and the fall of once noble warriors. In the last episode, we explored the history, culture, and other aspects of the Imperium of Men. In this episode, we delve into the origins of the forces of chaos and the tragic stories of those who succumbed to its allure. In the grim darkness of the far future, the Warhammer 40,000 universe is a vast, unfathomable realm where humanity, under the rule of the God Emperor of mankind, fights for survival against countless alien species and malevolent supernatural forces. In this cruel, dystopian galaxy, war is eternal and hope is scarce. At the heart of this never-ending conflict lies chaos, an insidious and corrupting force that has shaped the fate of the galaxy since the beginning of time. Chaos is a reflection of the darkest aspects of sentient beings, giving rise to gods and demons that feed upon their emotions and desires. It is the archenemy of the Imperium of Man, and its dark presence is a constant threat capable of turning even the most loyal warriors against their comrades. In this episode, we will explore the origins and nature of chaos and how it has managed to ensnare countless souls into its twisted embrace. We will delve into the tragic fall of the Primarchs, once the Emperor's greatest creations, and the birth of the Chaos Space Marines. Finally, we will seek to understand the motivations of those who have turned to chaos, and reveal that behind the monstrous visage of the forces of chaos lies a tale of desperation, disillusionment, and the eternal struggle for meaning in a cruel and unforgiving universe. In the turbulent realm of the warp, the darkest aspects of sentient beings coalesced into four malevolent gods, each embodying a different aspect of the psyche. They are the ultimate masters of chaos, luring the ambitious and the desperate with promises of power, immortality, and fulfillment. But behind their gifts lies a cruel trap, for those who fall under their sway inevitably become twisted instruments of destruction. Khorne, the blood god, thrives on violence and rage. He is the embodiment of martial prowess, and his followers are driven to acts of senseless brutality in his name. Khorne cares not from where the blood flows, only that it does. His demonic legions are fierce and relentless, delighting in the slaughter of their enemies. Tzeentch, the architect of fate, represents the thirst for knowledge and the desire for change. He weaves elaborate schemes and manipulates events from the shadows, always seeking to advance his own inscrutable goals. Those who serve Tzeentch are gifted with sorcerous powers, but their minds are twisted by the ever-changing nature of their patron. Nurgle, the Lord of Decay, is a grotesque and bloated figure who embodies entropy, disease, and despair. He offers solace to those who suffer, granting them strength and resilience in exchange for spreading his plagues and rot across the galaxy. His followers are infected with horrific diseases, yet they feel no pain, only a perverse sense of contentment. Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasure and Excess, feeds on the pursuit of hedonism and self-gratification. He lures his followers with promises of unending delight, yet their desires are never truly sated, driving them to ever greater acts of depravity. Slaanesh's servants are as graceful and alluring as they are cruel, savoring every exquisite sensation, even the agony of their victims. Together, these four chaos gods vie for dominance in the great game of chaos, seeking to corrupt and consume the galaxy as their mortal and demonic followers wage war in their name. The warp, also known as the Immaterium or the Empyrean, is a parallel dimension that exists alongside the material universe. It is a realm of pure energy shaped by the collective emotions, thoughts, and desires of sentient beings. The warp is the source of all psychic power, and it is through this mysterious dimension that interstellar travel becomes possible via the warp drive. But the warp is far more than just a means of traversing vast distances in space. It is intrinsically tied to the very existence of chaos, as it is within the warp that the Chaos Gods and their demonic minions reside. The forces of chaos are able to manifest within the material realm by exploiting weaknesses in the barrier between the two dimensions, often where human emotions are strongest or where reality itself is unstable. As sentient beings experience strong emotions, they unwittingly shape the fabric of the warp. Hate, fear, desire, and hope all contribute to the ever-changing landscape of this realm. In turn, the Chaos Gods grow in power, fueled by the psychic energies generated by these emotions. As their power increases, so does their ability to exert their influence upon the material universe, corrupting and manipulating individuals, entire worlds, and even the course of history. The warp is both a blessing and a curse for humanity. Psykers, individuals with the ability to draw upon the warp's energies and wield psychic powers, can be potent allies in the fight against the forces of chaos. However, they are also vulnerable to the whispers and temptations of the Chaos Gods, and without proper training or control, they may become conduits for the very forces they sought to combat. In the Warhammer 40,000 universe, the warp serves as a constant reminder of the duality of existence, the potential for great power, and the ever-present threat of corruption. It is a force that binds the galaxy together, yet it is also the source of humanity's greatest enemy. As long as the warp exists, so too will the dark influence of chaos, lurking at the edge of perception, waiting for a chance to strike. The insidious and pervasive presence of chaos has left an indelible mark on the Warhammer 40,000 galaxy. Its corrupting influence has shattered empires, turned brother against brother, and spawned unimaginable horrors that threaten the very fabric of reality. The impact of chaos is felt throughout the galaxy in various forms, from the subtle to the cataclysmic. Chaos is a master of deceit, whispering promises of power and glory into the ears of those who feel disillusioned, oppressed, or desperate. From lowly cultists to the highest-ranking officials, the lure of chaos can cause even the most loyal of souls to turn against their former comrades. Chaos corruption can be found in every stratum of society, undermining the foundations of order and sowing the seeds of rebellion. Perhaps the most tragic and enduring legacy of chaos is the fall of the Primarchs and the Space Marine legions that once served the Emperor of Mankind. The Horus Heresy, instigated by the forces of chaos, led to a galaxy-spanning civil war that left untold billions dead and countless worlds in ruins. The traitor legions, now sworn to the service of the Chaos Gods, continue to wage war against the Imperium, their hatred and bitterness driving them to ever greater acts of savagery. The barrier between the material universe and the warp is not always stable, and where it weakens, the denizens of the warp can break through. Demonic incursions are devastating events, as demons of all shapes and sizes pour forth to wreak havoc and destruction on the unsuspecting inhabitants of the material realm. Entire worlds can be consumed by the warp, their populations twisted and mutated beyond recognition, or wiped out entirely. In the wake of the 13th Black Crusade, led by Abaddon the Despoiler, a massive rift in the fabric of reality known as the Cicatrix Maledictum, or the Great Rift, tore the galaxy apart. This rift created a vast region of space known as the Dark Imperium, where the light of the Astronomicon is obscured, and the influence of chaos is stronger than ever. The Imperium of Man is now divided, its territories separated by this massive warp storm, and the forces of chaos are emboldened to strike at the heart of humanity. The impact of chaos on the galaxy is undeniable. It is a force that has shaped the course of history, driven by the darkest aspects of sentient beings, and it remains an ever-present threat to all who dwell in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. As the galaxy continues to spiral into conflict and despair, the influence of chaos grows stronger, promising an eternal struggle between order and anarchy, hope and despair. In the early days of the Imperium, the Emperor of Mankind sought to unite humanity under a single banner and usher in a new golden age. To achieve this ambitious goal, he embarked on a secret project, the creation of 20 superhuman beings known as the Primarchs. These extraordinary individuals, each imbued with the Emperor's own genetic material, were designed to be the perfect leaders and warriors, capable of leading humanity into a brighter future. The Primarchs were more than just exceptional soldiers, they were also paragons of virtue and wisdom, embodying the best aspects of humanity. Each Primarch possessed unique traits and abilities that made them ideal for their specific roles within the Emperor's Great Crusade to reclaim the galaxy. With the Primarchs at the helm of 20 Space Marine legions, the Emperor's vision seemed destined for success. These powerful armies, comprised of genetically enhanced warriors known as Adeptus Astartes or Space Marines, were the embodiment of the Emperor's will and the unstoppable force that would bring unity and order to the galaxy. However, as the Great Crusade progressed, the seeds of treachery and corruption began to take root within the ranks of the Space Marine Legions. Unknown to the Emperor, the Chaos Gods had taken notice of his creations and saw in them the potential for spreading their malign influence across the stars. In a daring act of sabotage, the Chaos Gods scattered the infant Primarchs across the galaxy, separating them from their creator and setting the stage for a tragedy that would shake the very foundations of the Imperium. When the Chaos Gods intervened in the Emperor's grand design, they sought to disrupt his plans and sow the seeds of future discord. In a monumental act of subterfuge, the Chaos Gods plucked the infant Primarchs from their gestation capsules on Terra and scattered them across the vast expanse of the galaxy. Each Primarch landed on a different world, far removed from their intended homeworld and their creator's guidance. In this act of cosmic defiance, the Chaos Gods hoped to corrupt the Emperor's creations, turning them into unwitting pawns in their eternal struggle for dominance. However, despite their insidious intentions, the Primarchs were not immediately lost to the darkness. Instead, they grew up on the various planets where they had been deposited, adapting to their new environments and rising to prominence in their respective societies. Over time, the Emperor became aware of the Primarch's scattered locations and set out to find and reunite with his lost sons. As the Great Crusade expanded the borders of the Imperium, each Primarch was eventually rediscovered and reunited with their father. In these moments of reunion, the Emperor bestowed upon each Primarch command of their own Space Marine Legion, crafted from the very same genetic material that had been used to create the Primarchs themselves. With the Primarchs and their legions reunited, the Great Crusade resumed with renewed vigor, but the taint of chaos had not been entirely purged from the destinies of these mighty heroes. The scattering of the Primarchs across the galaxy had created vulnerabilities within them, leaving subtle chinks in their spiritual armor that the Chaos Gods would exploit to devastating effect in the dark days to come. As the Primarchs took command of their respective Space Marine Legions, they achieved great victories and expanded the Imperium's borders. But their diverse upbringings and experiences had instilled within them different values and beliefs, leading to rivalries and ideological clashes among the brothers. Over time, the influence of chaos began to prey upon these divisions, ultimately leading to the rise and fall of several key Primarchs. Horus Lupercal, the War Master and favored son of the Emperor, was among the greatest of the Primarchs. He was a master tactician and charismatic leader, chosen by the Emperor himself to lead the Great Crusade in his stead. However, the weight of this responsibility, combined with the machinations of the Chaos Gods, caused Horus to fall from grace. Consumed by bitterness and a lust for power, Horus turned against the Emperor and embraced the dark gifts of chaos. He led the infamous Horus Heresy, a devastating civil war that left the Imperium forever scarred. Magnus the Red, Primarch of the Thousand Sons Legion, was a powerful psyker with a deep thirst for knowledge. His pursuit of arcane secrets led him to make a catastrophic mistake. By inadvertently breaching the Emperor's secret project, the Webway Gate, he allowed the forces of chaos to invade. This action led to his eventual fall from grace and his embrace of Tzeentch, the chaos god of change and sorcery. Magnus and his legion were transformed into sorcerous monstrosities, forever bound to the will of their new Dark Master. Angron, Primarch of the World Eaters Legion, was a figure of rage and fury. Born into slavery and forced to fight as a gladiator, Angron's brutal nature was further amplified by the implantation of the Butcher's Nails, devices that heightened his aggression and bloodlust. When he was reunited with the Emperor, Angron's violent tendencies only intensified, eventually leading him to embrace Khorne, the chaos god of war and bloodshed. Angron and his legion became even more brutal and bloodthirsty, seeking to slaughter all in their path. These tragic falls from grace are but a few examples of the Primarch's susceptibility to the corrupting influence of chaos. Their individual downfalls were instrumental in shaping the course of the galaxy's history, resulting in an age of darkness and strife that continues to this day. The once mighty heroes, now twisted and corrupted by chaos, stand as eternal reminders of the perils of ambition, pride, and the insidious power of the Dark Gods. The Horus Heresy was a devastating and pivotal event in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, marking the culmination of the Chaos Gods' machinations to corrupt the Primarchs and destroy the Emperor's vision for humanity. This galaxy-spanning civil war saw brother turn against brother, with fully half of the Space Marine Legion siding with the traitorous War Master Horus against the Emperor and the Imperium. The Horus Heresy was not confined to the Space Marine Legions alone. The schism within the Mechanicum on Mars saw the tech priests split into factions, some remaining loyal to the Emperor while others joined Horus in his rebellion. This conflict resulted in the near destruction of Mars and the loss of irreplaceable knowledge and technology. The final, climactic battle of the Horus Heresy was the Siege of Terra. Horus and his traitorous legions laid waste to the Imperial Palace in a desperate attempt to kill the Emperor and seize control of the Imperium. The defenders of Terra fought valiantly, but the tide of battle turned only when the Emperor himself faced Horus in single combat. Mortally wounded in the process, the Emperor defeated his fallen son, ending the heresy and dooming the traitorous legions to defeat. In the wake of the Horus Heresy, the remaining loyalist forces began a brutal campaign known as the Scouring. The objective was to purge the galaxy of the remaining traitors and restore order to the Imperium. The traitor legions were hunted relentlessly, their homeworlds destroyed, and their once proud names expunged from Imperial records. Eventually, the traitors fled to the Eye of Terror, a massive region of space where the warp and the material universe overlap, providing sanctuary for the forces of chaos. The Horus Heresy left an indelible mark on the Imperium, forever changing its course. With the Emperor confined to the life-sustaining Golden Throne, the Imperium became increasingly rigid and dogmatic, ruled by the iron fist of the Inquisition and the Ecclesiarchy. Paranoia and fear of chaos infiltration permeated every aspect of Imperial society, leading to ruthless persecution of perceived heresy and treachery. The heresy also shattered the unity of the Space Marine legions. In an attempt to prevent any single commander from amassing the power Horus once held, the legions were broken up into smaller, more manageable chapters. This reorganization, known as the Second Founding, created the diverse and numerous Space Marine chapters that defend the Imperium today. The consequences of the Horus Heresy continue to resonate throughout the galaxy, shaping the grim darkness of the far future. The traitor legions, now known as Chaos Space Marines, remain an ever-present threat to the Imperium, driven by vengeance and hatred for their former brethren. As the galaxy spirals further into conflict and despair, the specter of the Horus Heresy looms large, a constant reminder of the treachery and devastation that chaos can inflict upon even the mightiest of heroes. During the Horus Heresy, 9 of the 20 Primarchs and their respective Space Marine legions turned against the Emperor, seduced by the power and promises of the Chaos Gods. Each traitor legion developed its own unique characteristics and attributes, shaped by the particular Chaos God they chose to serve. Their fall from grace marked the beginning of their eternal war against the Imperium, driven by their hatred, bitterness, and the insatiable hunger for power. The Sons of Horus, originally known as the Luna Wolves, were the War Master Horus' own legion. Following their Primarch's fall to chaos, they led the rebellion against the Imperium during the Horus Heresy. After the Heresy's defeat, they rebranded themselves as the Black Legion under the leadership of Abaddon the Despoiler, Horus' most trusted lieutenant. The Black Legion is unique in that it pledges no specific allegiance to any single Chaos God, but instead serves the cause of chaos undivided. Led by the rage-fueled Primarch Angron, the World Eaters pledged their allegiance to Khorne, the Chaos God of blood and war. Their brutal and savage nature was amplified by the Butcher's nails implanted in their brains, driving them into a perpetual state of rage and bloodlust. Their signature weapon, the Chain Axe, became synonymous with the relentless slaughter they sought to unleash upon the galaxy. The Emperor's children, led by the hedonistic and narcissistic Primarch Fulgrim, fell to the seductive whispers of Slaanesh, the chaos god of excess and pleasure. Their pursuit of perfection became twisted and perverse, leading them to indulge in unspeakable acts of depravity and torture. The Emperor's children are now a twisted reflection of their former selves, seeking ever greater heights of excess in their service to Slaanesh. The Thousand Sons, under the guidance of their sorcerer King Primarch Magnus the Red, were dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge and psychic power. Their fall to chaos was marked by their allegiance to Tzeentch, the chaos god of change and sorcery. The Thousand Sons are now potent wielders of the dark arts, using their psychic powers and arcane knowledge to manipulate and destroy their enemies. The Death Guard, led by the stoic and resilient Primarch Mortarion, were known for their ability to endure the harshest conditions and withstand the deadliest pathogens. When they fell to chaos, they pledged themselves to Nurgle, the chaos god of decay and disease. The Death Guard now spreads Nurgle's plagues and corruption across the galaxy, their bloated and rotting forms a testament to their new patron's gifts. In addition to the legions mentioned above, other traitor legions include the Word Bearers, Night Lords, Iron Warriors, and Alpha Legion. Each legion has its own unique characteristics and methods, but all share the common trait of having turned against the Imperium to serve the dark gods of chaos. These traitor legions, once the proud defenders of humanity, have become the very embodiment of the forces they once sought to vanquish. Bound to the will of the Chaos Gods, they continue to wage war against their former brethren, seeking to bring about the ultimate downfall of the Imperium and plunge the galaxy into eternal darkness. In the service of the Chaos Gods, alongside the traitor legions, are the demons, entities of pure warp energy that embody the essence and desires of their dark masters. Demons are formed from the raw stuff of chaos and are given shape and purpose by the will of the Chaos Gods. Each of the 4 major Chaos Gods has a unique hierarchy and types of demons that serve their whims and desires. As the god of bloodshed and war, Khorne's demonic minions are ferocious and deadly warriors. Bloodthirsters, the greater demons of Khorne, are towering, winged behemoths armed with immense axes and whips. They lead the Bloodletters, lesser demons who wield wicked hellblades and thirst for the blood of their enemies. Other servants of Khorne include Fleshhounds, swift and savage hunters, and Juggernauts, massive, brass-plated beasts ridden into battle. Tzeentch, the god of change and sorcery, has a host of demonic minions that wield potent psychic powers and manipulate the fates of mortals. Lords of Change, the greater demons of Tzeentch, are avian-like creatures with vast intellects and near unrivaled mastery of the psychic arts. Lesser demons, known as horrors, come in several varieties, including pink horrors, blue horrors, and brimstone horrors, each possessing their own unique abilities and magical powers. Other minions of Tzeentch include flamers, who spew magical fire, and screamers, fast-moving, manta-like creatures. Nurgle, the god of decay and disease, revels in the cycle of life and death, and his demonic creations embody this aspect of his nature. Great Unclean Ones, the greater demons of Nurgle, are massive, bloated creatures that lumber into battle, spreading filth and pestilence wherever they go. Plague Bearers, the lesser demons, are rotten and diseased entities wielding rusted blades that can infect their enemies with a single cut. Other entities of Nurgle include Nurglings, small, mischievous creatures that swarm over their victims, and Beasts of Nurgle, slug-like creatures that exude noxious fumes. Slaanesh, the god of excess and pleasure, has a host of demonic servants that embody its hedonistic and sensual nature. Keepers of Secrets, the greater demons of Slaanesh, are lithe, mesmerizing creatures that exude an aura of seduction and desire. Demonettes, the lesser demons, are beguiling and deadly warriors with razor-sharp claws and entrancing beauty. Other servants of Slaanesh include fiends, bizarre, multi-limbed creatures that emit a disorienting aura, and seekers, swift, mounted demonettes that can close with their prey in the blink of an eye. This hierarchy of demonic entities serves the Chaos Gods in their eternal struggle against the forces of order and the Imperium. They are a constant reminder of the corrupting power of the Warp and the ever-present threat of the Dark Gods to the mortal realm. Together, the traitor legions and their demonic allies have a profound and lasting impact on the Warhammer 40,000 universe. They represent the antithesis of the Imperium's order and stability and are the driving force behind countless conflicts, atrocities, and tragedies that shape the grim darkness of the far future. The traitor legions, combined with the might of the demonic hordes, are responsible for countless invasions, incursions, and wars throughout the galaxy. These wars often take the form of Black Crusades, massive campaigns led by the likes of Abaddon the Despoiler and other infamous Chaos champions that seek to conquer and despoil entire sectors of the Imperium. Other conflicts arise from local uprisings or the machinations of chaos cults that have infiltrated Imperial worlds, sowing discord and paving the way for a full-scale invasion. The presence of the traitor legions and demons of chaos spreads corruption and taint wherever they go. Entire planets can fall to the insidious influence of chaos as cults and rebellions undermine the Imperium's rule from within. The warp itself can become unstable, leading to the birth of warp storms or the creation of warp rifts that can swallow entire star systems. This corruption and taint not only weaken the Imperium, but also create breeding grounds for more demons and heretical forces to rise. The traitor legions and their demonic allies represent an ever-present threat to the Imperium and its citizens. No world is truly safe from their predations, and their relentless assaults serve as a constant reminder of the dangers that lurk beyond the bounds of the Emperor's light. This threat necessitates the existence of organizations like the Inquisition, which constantly hunts for signs of chaos infiltration and heresy, often employing brutal and ruthless methods to root out the slightest hint of corruption. The influence of the Chaos Legions and demons has shaped the course of galactic history, from the cataclysmic events of the Horus Heresy to the countless wars and invasions that have followed. Their impact can be felt in the very nature of the Imperium itself, as it becomes increasingly oppressive, paranoid, and stagnant in its efforts to combat the forces of chaos. The traitor legions and their demonic allies serve as a constant reminder of the high stakes and dire consequences of failing in the eternal struggle against the darkness. In the Warhammer 40,000 universe, the forces of chaos, embodied by the traitor legions and their demonic allies, represent the greatest and most insidious threat to the survival of the Imperium and humanity. Their actions have far-reaching consequences, shaping the fate of the galaxy and driving the never-ending cycle of war, conflict, and suffering that defines the grim darkness of the far future. Though the Chaos Gods each have their own unique characteristics, agendas, and desires, their overarching goal is to expand their influence and power throughout the galaxy. They seek to dominate the hearts and minds of mortals, fueling their own strength through the emotions, beliefs, and actions of their followers. As the god of blood and war, Khorne's primary objective is to spread conflict and violence throughout the galaxy. The more blood is shed and the more battles are fought, the stronger Khorne becomes. Khorne's followers are driven by an insatiable hunger for conquest and slaughter, seeking to appease their bloodthirsty god by offering him the skulls of their enemies. Tzeentch, the god of change and sorcery, seeks to bring about constant flux and upheaval throughout the galaxy. His ultimate goal is to orchestrate the rise and fall of empires, manipulate the fates of mortals, and keep the galaxy in a perpetual state of change. To this end, Tzeentch's followers work to sow discord, spread misinformation, and manipulate the course of history from behind the scenes. Nurgle, the god of decay and disease, revels in the cycle of life and death. His desire is to spread his plagues and infections throughout the galaxy, corrupting and consuming all in their path. Nurgle's followers believe that by embracing decay, they can find a twisted form of immortality and purpose as they help to spread their god's influence and further the cycle of death and rebirth. Slaanesh, the god of excess and pleasure, seeks to lure mortals into its thrall through the promise of unparalleled hedonism and ecstasy. Slaanesh's ultimate goal is to drown the galaxy in a tide of sensation and experience as its followers indulge in every possible vice and depravity. The more mortals give in to their desires and succumb to the temptations of Slaanesh, the more powerful the god becomes. Though they may have individual goals and desires, the Chaos Gods share a common interest in undermining the Imperium and its strictures. By doing so, they create more opportunities for their influence to spread, furthering their own power and fueling the eternal war that rages throughout the galaxy. The traitor Primarchs, once the Emperor's most trusted and powerful sons, turned their backs on the Imperium for various reasons, each driven by personal desires, ambitions, or perceived betrayals. Their fall to chaos has shaped their goals and desires, which now align with those of the dark gods they serve. Horus, the War Master and favored son of the Emperor, was manipulated by chaos into believing that the Emperor sought to become a god and abandon humanity. Fueled by ambition and a sense of betrayal, Horus sought to overthrow the Emperor and take his place as the ruler of the galaxy. Though ultimately defeated during the Horus Heresy, his actions continue to resonate throughout the traitor legions. Angron, the Primarch of the World Eaters, was driven by an insatiable rage and bloodlust. Having been enslaved and tormented since his youth, Angron's rage against his oppressors eventually consumed him, leading to his fall to chaos and his allegiance to Khorne. His desire now is to bring endless war and bloodshed to the galaxy in the name of the Blood God. Magnus the Red, the Primarch of the Thousand Suns, was driven by a thirst for knowledge and understanding of the warp. His desire to protect his legion and unlock the secrets of the universe led to his downfall when he inadvertently caused a disaster on Terra. Now aligned with Tzeentch, Magnus seeks to continue his pursuit of knowledge and power, hoping to reshape the galaxy according to his own designs. Mortarion, the Primarch of the Death Guard, was driven by a desire for resilience and defiance in the face of hardship. His experiences on his toxic homeworld led him to embrace the teachings of Nurgle, who promised him the strength to withstand any adversity. Now, Mortarion seeks to spread Nurgle's influence and decay throughout the galaxy, bringing about a twisted form of resilience in the face of the Imperium's oppression. Fulgrim, the Primarch of the Emperor's children, sought perfection in all things, striving for excellence in battle, art, and culture. His obsession with perfection led him down the path of excess and decadence, ultimately aligning him with Slaanesh. Now, Fulgrim seeks to indulge his desires and push the boundaries of sensation, seeking ever greater experiences and spreading the corrupting influence of Slaanesh throughout the galaxy. While each traitor Primarch has their own desires and motivations, their collective actions have played a significant role in shaping the galaxy and furthering the goals of the Chaos Gods. Their continued presence serves as a reminder of the devastating consequences of ambition, hubris, and betrayal, as well as the eternal threat that the forces of chaos pose to the Imperium. The Chaos Space Marines, once the proud defenders of the Imperium, now serve the Dark Gods with unwavering devotion. Their motivations for turning to chaos are as varied and complex as the warriors themselves. Driven by personal desires, a thirst for vengeance, or a belief in the righteousness of their cause, these fallen Astartes bring death and destruction in the name of their new masters. Many Chaos Space Marines seek vengeance against the Imperium for perceived betrayals or injustices they suffered during their service. These warriors feel abandoned or wronged by the Emperor and the Imperium, and they now dedicate themselves to bringing about its downfall. They believe that the Imperium is a corrupt and oppressive regime that deserves to be torn down and replaced by something better or, in some cases, simply destroyed. For some Chaos Space Marines, the promise of personal power and glory is enough to sway them to the side of the Dark Gods. These individuals seek to carve out their own empires and legacies within the chaos-infested realms, hoping to achieve immortality and greatness through their deeds. They view the rigid hierarchy of the Imperium as a hindrance to their ambitions and embrace the chaos that allows them to rise through the ranks based on their own abilities and ruthlessness. Some Chaos Space Marines are drawn to the forces of chaos due to the sense of freedom and liberation it offers. They believe that the Imperium stifles individuality and creativity, forcing them to adhere to a strict code of conduct and limiting their potential. By embracing chaos, these Astartes find a release from the constraints of the Imperium, allowing them to explore their own desires and ambitions without fear of reprisal. Many Chaos Space Marines maintain a deep loyalty to their Primarch, even after their fall to chaos. These warriors see their Primarch as a father figure and continue to follow them into the service of the Dark Gods. They believe that their Primarch's cause is just and that their allegiance to them is more important than any loyalty they may have once held for the Emperor or the Imperium. Some Chaos Space Marines become corrupted by the influence of the Warp and the Dark Gods, their minds twisted and their souls tainted. These individuals lose all sense of their former selves, becoming little more than insane killing machines driven by a burning hatred for the Imperium and a desire to see it destroyed. They are often driven by the insidious whispers of the demonic entities that infest their minds, urging them on to greater acts of violence and depravity. The motivations of the Chaos Space Marines are as varied and complex as the warriors themselves, yet, despite their differences, they are united in their dedication to the Dark Gods and their desire to bring about the downfall of the Imperium they once served. Chaos cultists and followers are the mortal men and women who have turned their backs on the Imperium and pledged themselves to the Dark Gods of Chaos. Their reasons for doing so are as varied as the individuals themselves, but they all share a common goal: to further the agenda of the Dark Gods and bring about the downfall of the Imperium. Some Chaos cultists and followers are driven by a desire for power that they believe they cannot attain within the confines of the Imperium. They see the Dark Gods as a means to gain abilities, influence, and status that would be otherwise unattainable, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to achieve their goals, even if it means sacrificing their souls to the forces of chaos. Others are drawn to chaos by a thirst for forbidden knowledge and the secrets of the Warp. They believe that the strict dogma and censorship of the Imperium stifles intellectual growth and progress, and they turn to the Dark Gods in the hopes of unlocking hidden truths and arcane powers that have been kept from them by the Emperor and his servants. Some Chaos cultists and followers seek change and upheaval, believing that the Imperium is an oppressive regime that must be overthrown. They view the Dark Gods as agents of transformation and revolution, and they hope that by embracing chaos, they can help bring about a new order that will free humanity from the tyranny of the Emperor and his Imperium. For many, the grim darkness of the Warhammer 40,000 universe has driven them to the brink of despair, and they turn to the Dark Gods as a means of escape. They see the Chaos Gods as a source of comfort and solace, offering them a sense of purpose and a way to make sense of the brutality and suffering that defines their lives. In return for their devotion, they hope to be granted respite from their suffering or the promise of a better existence in the service of the Dark Gods. Some Chaos cultists and followers are lured into the service of the Dark Gods by the seductive promises of the demonic entities that serve them. These individuals are often driven by their basest desires and passions, and they willingly submit to the temptations of chaos in the hopes of indulging their vices and experiencing pleasures beyond their wildest dreams. Ultimately, Chaos cultists and followers are united by a shared belief that the Dark Gods offer them something that the Imperium cannot: hope, power, knowledge, or escape. Their ambitions may be diverse, but they are all willing to risk their souls in pursuit of their goals, and their devotion only serves to further the insidious influence of chaos throughout the galaxy. At the heart of the Chaos Gods' machinations lies the Great Game, an eternal struggle for power and dominance that defines the very nature of the Warp and its denizens. The Chaos Gods constantly vie for supremacy, their followers and mortal agents serving as pawns in this cosmic chess match. The Great Game is not only a contest between the gods themselves, but also a reflection of their influence within the material realm. The balance of power within the Great Game is constantly shifting as the Chaos Gods wax and wane in strength depending on the actions and emotions of mortals. When a particular god's influence grows, it can tip the scales in their favor, granting them a temporary advantage over their rivals. This ever-changing dynamic creates a state of constant flux, ensuring that the Great Game never truly ends. The actions of mortal agents play a crucial role in the Great Game, as their deeds can either strengthen or weaken the gods they serve. Chaos champions, cultists, and other followers wage war in the name of their dark patrons, seeking to spread their influence and undermine the positions of rival gods. At the same time, the Imperium and other factions opposed to Chaos work to hold back the tide of corruption, their efforts playing a critical role in the ongoing struggle. The Great Game is characterized by an endless cycle of conflict and strife, both within the Warp and the material realm. As the gods vie for power, their followers are compelled to fight in their name, seeking to further their patrons' agenda and defeat their enemies. This constant warfare fuels the gods' strength and ensures that the galaxy remains embroiled in bloodshed and turmoil. Though the Chaos Gods may have individual goals and desires, their collective ambition is to dominate the galaxy and reshape it in their image. The Great Game serves as a means to this end, as the gods' followers work tirelessly to spread their influence and undermine the Imperium. Should one of the gods ever achieve true dominance over their rivals, they would wield unimaginable power, potentially spelling doom for the galaxy and all who inhabit it. The Great Game is an eternal struggle that shapes the very fabric of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Its influence can be felt in every corner of the galaxy, from the highest echelons of power to the lowliest Hive City slums. As the Chaos Gods continue their never-ending battle for supremacy, the fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance, with the actions of mortal agents playing a crucial role in determining the outcome. The Warhammer 40,000 universe is defined by the eternal conflict between the forces of the Imperium and the Dark Gods of Chaos. This struggle shapes the lives of countless mortals as they are forced to choose sides in a battle that spans the galaxy. The Imperium fights to maintain order and protect humanity from the corrupting influence of chaos, while the followers of the Dark Gods seek to tear down the Emperor's regime and usher in a new age of darkness. Chaos plays a central role in the Warhammer 40k narrative, serving as both a source of conflict and a driving force behind the stories of countless heroes and villains. The fall of the Primarchs, the Horus Heresy, and the rise of the Chaos Space Marines are all key moments in the history of the galaxy, and their repercussions continue to shape the events of the 41st millennium. By exploring the lore and mythology of Chaos, fans of the series can gain a deeper understanding of the motivations and actions of its characters, as well as the broader themes and concepts that underpin the setting. As we conclude our journey into the dark and twisted realm of Chaos, we invite you to delve deeper into the Warhammer 40,000 universe and explore its rich and intricate lore. Whether you're a newcomer to the series or a seasoned veteran, there's always more to discover in the grim darkness of the far future. In the words of the wise rogue trader, fortune favors the bold, and there's no greater fortune than the mysteries of the galaxy. Don't forget to watch one of these cool videos and enjoy gaming.